appreciate that you're all here and all enthusiastic.
Hooray!
I'm
I'd like
sorry.
to
I'm
note for the
sorry.
record.
Did my level of smug smartassness not come across the microphone properly? I do say, darling.
I'd like to note for the record that I am in fact here, but I am not in fact enthusiastic.
Oh.
Oh no.
I'm always enthusiastic. I'm super happy every day.
Okay, why are you not enthusiastic, Forrest? You can also
Mostly because you can't remember my name.
I wanted to call you Chifundo.
This is all your fault, Fiaura.
I am slightly more enthusiastic now.
You can,
Hooray!
So you
Once it
didn't know
begins,
you
I
were
will be enthusiastic.
you can signal people we're starting, Lenny.
All right. I'll go do that. Are you streaming it to anywhere? Or?
Yeah, I'm streaming it to my Twitch here. I'll get you a link.
Okay.
We are live.
Did we do a we're starting Twitter yet?
I haven't got that far. All I did was press the start streaming button and announce it on Discord.
Gorsh.
I'm working on it.
Gorsh,
God
V!
damn it, Fiaura. God, chop,
Get your
chop.
shit together. Holy jeez.
Get it in one spot and get it together.
Who's all here? Forest Rain, Cinder Script, not Sky Railroad. As much as I adore Sky, and it was nice to have dinner with him at various places. No, it's not Sky. I like how on Twitter, Twitter's the only place where Chris is called Flitter Chris. I don't know Barsta's off the top of my head. I've pinged Dazzle enough that if I don't know that what his name is on Twitter, I deserve to be shot. I know Screws.
Well, I mean, you deserve to be shot in any case, but anyway.
Can you feel
No,
the love tonight?
I don't feel anything
No,
anymore.
I can't.
Yes, because you're talking to Fundo.
Can you feel the love tonight? Tonight. Actually, yeah, that accent works really well for that song. So
I suddenly need an adult.
I am an adult.
We are adults.
There's only one
My
person.
taxes say I am.
There's only one person here who qualifies as an adult.
who?
Ooh, is it me?
It's obviously me.
No,
Oh.
no, it's not.
Okay, only 50% of Looney counts as an adult. And he knows why.
Yeah.
What does the other 50% count as?
Processed meat product?
The outer shell.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Actually, that kind of works together. Processed meat product found on the outer shelves.
So that's where my Cajun turtle soup went.
Alright, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the Fallout Equestria panel that I normally run live in person. But due to, what do we want to call it? Angry flu. Let's call it angry flu. Basically, the virus that has about half the country on lockdown. Guess what we're doing? We're doing an online convention, and we're doing this live from my desk with my plushie. The moment you realize that the plushie is all the way on the other side of the queen size bed. Anyway. I am joined by a host of people who will introduce themselves because I'm not about to introduce this many people. So, Inky, since you're at the top of the list because your name has an A in it, go. You have to unmute your Discord.
Amazing.
Inky. Inky, you have to unmute your Discord. Okay, we're having technical problems with Inky at the moment. Inky plays Sunrise for Fallout Equestria Dead Tree, and also the person who showed me how to print books. Blame her. Oh, is your microphone working now?
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I was still muted. Hello. I'm not sure what you want me to say, Fiaura.
You can introduce yourself. You can tell people what you do or why you're here or however you want to phrase it.
Well, I'm here because Fiora is a crazy person. No, she's great. I am Inky Notebook, and I do Wandering Sunrise in the Fallout Equestria Dead Tree audiobook. I also run the Traveling Pony Museum, which is where many of you may have seen me before. I do a variety of other kinds of voice acting for some other media companies as well, which is why I'm a part of this project and why I like doing these kinds of things. And I'm really excited for people to hear the latest chapter release later.
Woo!
Yes, the end of this panel will be us playing the latest chapter of the audiobook live for, it's actually the longest one we've done so far. It's like an hour and 14 minutes. I was surprised at the length. Brasta? Is that how I say that? Brasta Septum?
Brasta, yeah.
Go
Anyway,
ahead.
Sorry. I'm Brasta, and I voice Hot Cross Buns in the Dead Tree audiobook. That's pretty much all I currently do, other than being in a whole bunch of servers all over the place.
Next we have a Cinder script.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cinderscript. I'm the director and lead of the Shotgun Angel Productions team. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Oh, I also played Spring Bronco and got shot in the head. So, that was fun.
Yes, so immediately we started the audiobook, and within the first 2 chapters, it killed the director.
I mean, we're totally not keeping track of how much crew we killed.
Yes.
Oh no, they dropped like flies, but the crew we're gonna have fun with.
Forest Rain, you want to go ahead, and then I'll embarrass you.
Sweet. I love being embarrassed. My name is Forrest Rain. I'm a Brony musician since 2012. I make pop punk music as well as orchestral and some other stuff. I am a VA on this project, playing Chifundo, and I am also a brand new Fallout Equestria author.
Yes, I'm going to embarrass her now because she's now the most recent Fallout Equestria story to get featured on FemFiction. I'm jealous. It took me 4 months. Her, day 1.
Well, I have exceptional people to teach me the ins and outs of these things.
Yeah. I wish I had props on day 1. I didn't get props until...
I am so glad we have props on day 1 with this project. Whew.
I didn't get props till like day 180 or something. The Chris.
Hello. I'm Chris. Some call me Floaty Chris, and I'm doing voice acting. I'm the one of the narrator in the Dead Tree audiobook, and I'm very honored to work with everybody here. And I've been doing voice acting for about 1.5 years, if I remember correctly. And I'm very nervous.
Everyone just remember Chris is Precious Bean. But Chris is also Naive Bean.
This is safe
in the most loving way.
In the most loving way, we have to be safe for Chris as much as possible. Not safe for work, safe for Chris. Prince Dazzle, you've done this panel before.
Yep. Hello, I'm Prince Dazzle. I voice a lot of minor stuff and Quick Stitch later. That should be fun. I'll try not to get anyone killed.
Screwloose, Papa Screwloose, Master of Markets, Vendor Extraordinaire, Dad. I have a problem with dads, apparently.
Well, it's okay. Hi, I'm Screwloose. I voice Buddy in Rainbow Rise. I hope I'm long for this world.
About that.
I'm just gonna say now, I apparently have a bad habit of killing dads. In the meantime, Skybolt.
And Chifundo's lovers.
How's it going? I'm Skybolt. I've also been a horse musician since 2012. Started out with Fallout Equestria in 2013 with a Imagine Dragons parody. And we also have our own little horse productions over at East Court Productions if you're at all interested in our other stuff.
So, we're going to talk about why this fandom exists. You would not think cute, adorable ponies post-apocalypse is where they belong, but it's a thing. It exists, and it's incredibly popular for some reason. We're going to talk about the entirety of this panel in a moment. I'm going to introduce myself real quick. Hi, I'm Fiaura. I do science. I research social. I have I'm going to go over the list here in my notes on the other screen real quick. I have an associate's in biology. I have a bachelor's in human sexuality. I have a master's in human communication. I could be your marriage counselor in 2 weeks if I wanted to. That would be just the 2 weeks required for licensing and to get my own counselor. I also have 69 giggity additional graduate courses.
Nice.
I only stopped at 69 because I just looked up and went, I think this is a good spot. I have been in these fields for 9 years. I have 7 published academic papers, and now I write Fallout Equestria books now. I went from tenure professorship to live streaming and writing Fallout Equestria books. What is this life, and why is this timeline so weird?
To be fair, you're the only person that could pull that off.
So we're going to analyze the following. Why this fandom exists, starting with timing, the emergence of the internet, a story, telling a good story versus creating an interesting collision, spreading of branch-off stories, and why those happen. And then we're going to talk about, the Big Seven and how each one impacts the overall world of Fallout Equestria. And when I say Big Seven, I'm referring to the 7 stories that the Fallout Equestria wiki recognizes as the closest thing to canon stories besides KCAT, which we're going to go over what the requirements for those are. And then all of these people are going to talk. And I'm not going to have to do all the talking. There will be a section where they specifically have to talk about themselves in the most awkward ways possible and about the work they do for Fallout Equestria. And we're also going to show off some other people's Fallout Equestria work that I did get permission to do. We'll have a Q&A session. And then at the end, I'm going to queue up the release of Chapter 3 of Dead Tree's audiobook live here on Twitch and live on YouTube. You can watch it on whichever side you want. And let you guys see it for the first time. I haven't had a chance to listen to it because they gave it to me last night before I went to bed, and I have not had time to do it all day. All I had time to do was take it, put it on YouTube, and was like, cool, it's ready to go. I have no idea what this actually contains right now.
Not that that's new.
Harsh. My other panelists can feel free to interrupt me, talk over me, or tell me to shut the heck up at any point they want. I'm censoring myself for Chris.
Sorry and thank you.
No need to apologize. I'm just reminding myself that I have to keep this rated PG to PG-13. So, timing. I'm going to be entirely honest. When I analyzed, when the original Fallout Equestria came out, there were 2 things on FemFiction. Shipping and porn. The Wayback Machine is amazing. And some of that stuff I never wanted to see. And then this came out. An epic story on the same scale and word count as Homer's The Odyssey. An author who set out to not be famous, which is very different because if you know anything about online writing, a lot of us do it for money because it's how we make a living. KCAT didn't want to make any money off of it and is actually kind of mad at people. She actually is a little mad at me sometimes when she points out that you make money off of this. I didn't intend for that to ever happen. And I'm like, you're right. And I am sorry to you for that, but that's a point we both have to disagree on. Fallout 3 and New Vegas were competing over which one was better, and New Vegas was still releasing DLCs when this came out. Fallout as a brand is incredibly popular, as seen by the amount of sheer... If you look on YouTube right now and you just type Fallout 76, you can see how upset people got over a video game. I'm not going to indulge in that. And more importantly, when Fallout Equestria came out, it started coming out when the MLP show was on hiatus between seasons 2 and 3. Lastly, the availability of SFM and Flash is one thing, but people were actually scared Hasbro was going to do like copyright strikes. So what they needed characters they could use that were not a part of the show, but were popular enough to warrant doing an animation that would get them their own attention for their work. The last thing that happens when KCAT is releasing this story is the Brony documentary comes out, the first BronyCon happens. And at the first BronyCon, I had to hunt down these pictures. Screw loose. Was there not someone at the first BronyCon in a vault suit? And Screw Loose is not here right now. Apparently he dropped out for some reason. So I am embarrassed. I'm gonna check on him real quick because that wasn't supposed to happen. Screw Loose, you okay? See if he comes back. Anyway. But there are pictures from the first BronyCon of somebody in a Vault Dweller cosplay, and people were like, what? So, anyway, the reason why, and this theory winds up with FOE appeals to others beyond, is we have this really weird appeal of cute, adorable creatures murdering each other. Happy Tree Friends is still releasing episodes. It's been 15 years. And people still want to watch that. What are your thoughts on cute, adorable creatures murdering each other, guys?
Cinder starts whistling.
It happens.
I remember when Happy Tree Friends came out, and it was an incredibly huge thing. And I think I was in high school at the time, which would have been like 2005-ish. But anyway, yeah, it was incredibly popular, and it was novel, but I got bored of it pretty quick.
I actually found it by accident. I had no idea.
Yeah, I also got tricked initially by the concept by a girlfriend at the time, and it's I think it's great because it sort of has that extra separation of it's a little bit more cuter or more sympathetic of a creature, and so then when horrible violence does happen to them, you feel it more, and I feel like that's a big part of the appeal.
Okay. So, next thing is the internet became widespread. Back in, when I was in high school, back in my day, believe this or not, it was 15 years ago. I was in high school. The internet, was not something everybody had access to readily. When I was in high school and Warcraft 3 was coming out, downloading the Warcraft 3 premiere trailer was an event that you set your computer to do over the course of the entire day while you were at school, and you came home and watched it when you got home.
Yeah, back in the day, daytime JPEGs were hour-long down.
So, yeah, furthermore, KCAT was going to pony conventions and anime conventions and running tabletop games of Fallout Equestria, which was later picked up by an actual group of gamers who are now Dead Tree Studios, who make tabletop games, and they've made a Fallout Equestria tabletop game, and they're currently working on a Monster Girl tabletop game. I wouldn't have thought that would have been a thing, but apparently you can now play Spider-Girl. It's not cute, adorable Spider-Man. Just fair warning.
Give it time. They'll find a way.
Into the Spider-Verse Female Edition.
The next piece of this is interesting collisions don't work. How many people can think of just somebody taking two universes and slapping them together as part of fan fiction and doing nothing with it beyond like looking at how interesting it is for the two universes to collide? There are hundreds of fan fictions where this happens. If you don't write a good story as a part of it, it doesn't work. It falls apart after the nuance and novelty of it wears off. An example of this is name something. God, I don't know. Power Rangers and Ponies was good for one episode. After that, nope. And a lot of writers make this classic mistake where they focus on these interactions and do no character building and do no character development and don't really do anything where the characters sit down and become something interesting that you want to find out what happens to them. There's no background story going on that you want to see to the conclusion, and there's no original story going on that you want to see to the conclusion. They make an interesting side project, they run out of steam, and even when the author, and as soon as the author loses interest, the gimmick gets old and then they burn out. K-Cat said, I'm writing a good story first. FOE, like all Fallout games, if you've ever played any Fallout game, Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout 3, and New Vegas, I'm not counting 4 or 76 because reasons. They don't do this, 1 and 2, they're kind of awful about any form of story that stays coherent, but the first 4 Fallout games do what's called a hero's journey within a hero's journey. What this means is they take a seemingly upstart new hero who doesn't have much skills, and they must progress through small little quests that then loop into a bigger picture, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. In Fallout 1, for example, you leave the vault to go find a water chip. When you find the water chip, you run into these giant green mutants. I'm only pausing because I'm expecting Forrest Rain to start talking like a super mutant again, and she doesn't, and that would just horrify me. No?
Well, now that you said something...
Then you proceed to go do a quest to find out where the super mutants are coming from, what's going on with them, why are places being destroyed by them. And then you do a final quest to decide, do you side with the super mutants or do you end their threat? So the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You take this small little thing and it becomes this massive overarching epic. And that's what happens with Little Pip. Little Pip needs to go find her Velvet Remedy. Little Pip's Velvet Remedy is being held by raiders, and the raiders are being directed by this massive, angry alicorn, who speaks of more of her kind. They can't go back to the stable that they were in, because the stable won't let them back in, so they decide to go to DJ Pone 3, and then they get a big filling out of what's going on. And the story eventually spirals to the point where they are taking on giant warlords of an entire city, a literal demigod incarnation, and the overarching remnants of the government that used to rule over the land that's now been annihilated by nuclear apocalypse. That is a hero's journey within the hero's journey, where you start off with this little small quest, and then you end up with this big overarching story that spirals into this giant epic. And the other important thing about Fallout Equestria is characters are never safe. See Steelhooves. Steelhooves, if you don't know, spoilers right now. Steelhooves, in Fallout Equestria, dies in 2 sentences. He has been with the group for over 30 chapters. Gone. It took me rereading that 4 times to process he was dead. And it's an important aspect of all good Fallout stories and all good Fallout Equestria stories. No character is ever safe, period. At any time, you can die. At any time that, in the case of one story we're going to look at, the narrator dies and a new narrator picks up. And it's just out of the blue. But it emphasizes that no one is ever safe. And we have...
Game of Thrones complex.
Yeah, before Game of Thrones. And we have offshoots. Hundreds of them. Forest Rain is writing an offshoot she started about 4 weeks ago.
Yep. There's what? How many hundreds? You knew the exact number at one point, but
there
hundreds.
There are 235 long stories currently in excess of 50,000 words. One of the big 7 stories, which are the 7 stories recognized as canon, is still going, and 2 stories get featured every time they update on Equestria Daily. There are 6 radio plays, 5 of which are still happening. I was like, what? This is still a thing? And this is where we're going to get into some other people's content real quick. My drive, please.
In fact, speaking of, East Corp is fairly well known for being one of the big Fallout Equestria radio play producers. We actually just finished, Skybolt actually just recently finished his own.
Thank you for stalling.
Mine isn't over yet, but Terminal Secrets is over, which was James Vermont's production.
So now we're going to get into seeing a couple of little clips here. So for a start, this is just some of the content that's come out. So first off, Argo Demon did this. And it's nothing special. It's just 3 minutes of a still shot with moving parts.
I lost my sound. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't cheap.
So, to us in the pony community, that's damn impressive. But to like anime fans and people who've done hand drawn art and a bunch of like studios, that came out 6.5 years ago. They said, okay, that's cool. what can you do with it? It is making it like you can't do a lot with SFM. You can't really like. You can do still shots like this, and you can do set pieces. Those look cool, but you can't do anything else. I have been reminded every time I have sat down for dinner with Argo Demon when I've been at conventions the following: never tell the man that he can't do much. Because 2 days before a year to date, he came out with this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people lost audio feed.
No, they're recording it on Twitch. They can hear it.
Okay, a lot of Discord people are reporting the opposite, so just want to make sure you're being... appropriate music.
Actually, that's not gonna work. Yeah, just remember, never tell Argo Demon he can't do stuff. Also, I think I have... Yeah, I have this in just for fun.
The secret to pony magic. Bullets.
Just on a less serious note, the secret to pony magic is bullets. Anyway, so...
Yeah, that second one I had never seen before, but that's bloody impressive.
So I just, SFM has kind of become the standard for creating like Fallout Equestria content instead of using Flash, just to completely avoid the Hasbro potential of Hasbro going, that's mine, especially after Hasbro copyright claimed pink unicorns dancing on rainbows. So all of the ad revenue money for that goes to Hasbro, not to the guy who made it, which is just like piss everybody off mode. But in order for so you've seen now Little Pip and you've now seen Blackjack. To get a major story or a quote canon story for Fallout Equestria, you have to get the Fallout Equestria wiki to move it to one of the major stories. You have to do the following. You must have your own article on Equestria Daily. You must have easily recognizable characters that are different enough that I could not put them side by side with other characters and think that they belong to someone else. And someone must have printed your work as a printable book. So one of the reasons why Speak and I think it's called... Inky, you printed this one, and it was at TrotCon last year, I think.
I have a bunch of them. Which one? Which one are you asking about? Because I have the original Fallout Equestria that my team and I redid art for. I have Project Horizons. I have Pink Eyes. And I was carrying your book when you're not around.
It's got Atom Smasher on it.
Oh, Duck and Cover. Yes, I also had Duck and Cover. Yeah.
The reason why Speak and Duck and Cover are not moved to that status is Duck and Cover does not have an article on Equestria Daily, and Speak has an allegory talk with all of the characters from Project Horizons, which means that it's borrowing those characters, so it's not put up there with the other 7. If those 2 conditions were changed, it would be put up there. So as Inky described, she's printing a bunch of them, and I've been printing Dead Tree, which at this point I've sold 800 copies of the 2 books combined. That's scary to say out loud. I legit call the printing press company about once every 3 months and go, we have to do the thing again, and they're like, okay, we'll get it done. The next words out of her mouth last month when I got new copies printed was, is it the Bible press one or the other one? And I went, the Bible press. Because for those of you who don't know, if your book exceeds 750 pages, they have to use a Bible press to bind the book. That means someone who made an order for Bibles had their order knocked back 2 weeks to have post-apocalyptic ponies printed. I'm not sure if I should feel bad or wear that as a badge of honor.
Badge of honor.
Badge of honor!
And now that we've talked about the Big 7, we're going to explain them as Pink accuses Chris of everything under the sun. So, all of the voice actors will get a chance to comment on any of these stories that they have read. So, Project Horizons. I'm going to describe all of these Big 7 stories in 10 words or less. Project Horizons. Everyone knows me. I jumped the shark. I'm the longest. Anyone else?
Not inaccurate. But
amazing secondary cast. Hate the narrator.
I disagree with everybody else, and I love Blackjack immensely. However, I can understand everybody else's position. But I'm now almost at chapter 60, 61 or something like that in my read through of it. And yeah, no, still don't hate Blackjack as a narrator or as a character.
Okay, I'd be concerned if you suddenly did start hating her after dealing with her for so long. That's either you've got some pretty serious relationship issues, or you finally come around and I've finally gotten through to you.
True.
And we all know that's not happening.
I mean, I had a good conversation with you the other day, actually, about Project Horizons, and the thing that I love most is when Somber writes for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't necessarily care if something that he does in a certain chapter is because his editors decided that it was better for the book to do that way, or just because it's something that he wanted to eventually get the characters to do. And in my opinion, when he's writing for fun, it's more enjoyable for me to read. But it's friggin' long. Like, dedicate a few months of your life to reading it.
I'm gonna say that in preparation for this panel, I reread Project Horizons. It made me hate Blackjack more, and made me wish P21 and Lucille got better endings. When I was making this panel in December, I went through and reread the entirety of this. I want my week of my life back.
Nope, that's been sacrificed on the altar of Somber. Can't get that back.
Rip.
Anyone else want to?
How else do you think Somber maintains that immortality?
Through his PayPal link that's in every chapter.
Yeah, I know, right? Anyone else want to weigh in on Project Horizons? Okay. Heroes. I have no special powers. Anybody else read Heroes?
Look, it's on my list, okay?
Really? Okay, we're gonna get to the one that everyone likes, Pink Eyes.
I like that one.
My exact description of it is, cute small death ghoul finds mom. Do the voice actors want to weigh in on this one?
I've got a better less than 10-word description. Hi, my name's Puppy Smiles. Have you seen my mom?
Can everybody hold up the amount of fingers for the amount of times that they've heard that now?
Quite a lot, actually.
I need to be exposed to
country at this point.
I need to be exposed to a significant amount of radiation and grow about 4 additional arms in order to hold up that many fingers.
I think I've ran out of fingers.
I could probably sum it up by saying Dexter's Laboratory Pony Edition.
Oh, feel like you're one to talk, miss. Hi, I'm Wandering Sunrise. What's your name?
Yeah, everybody hold up fingers for that one too. All right, too many times for fingers.
And somewhere deep in the recesses of the quarantine state of New York, Moonhoof is reeing.
Hey, me too. I'm also quarantined in New York.
Moon just posted in the Discord chat. Screams in GM.
Okay, Pink Eyes is the shortest of any of the major Fallout Equestria stories. It only took 3 months to post the entire story, and it is the only Fallout Equestria story in existence. Not just the only one of the major 7. I checked! It is the only one in existence written from the perspective of a child. Not written as the child is the main character. The narrator is technically the child. That's a scary thought. Okay, Dead Tree. Fallout 4 rewritten to be good. # fuck Todd Howard.
And that's the only F word that we can use to maintain our PG-13 rating.
We had to get one in.
So, voice actors, you're all voice actors for this audiobook, so you probably all have your opinions of it. I'll wait.
This one is obviously the worst one of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh my gosh.
It's got great music.
I really hate the main character.
I expected more trees.
Yeah,
agreed.
to be honest, I actually thought there would be trees in the Dead Tree.
You know, that's the weirdest part.
Disappointed.
That's the weirdest part. The one time they run into a tree, it has a treehouse in it.
She says innocently.
So, so here's my question: where did they get the wood for the treehouse?
All the dead trees, duh.
Or it's like the special Equestria friendship tree that just becomes whatever it needs to be. Tree of Harmony. That's.
And now you're all going to see me do something live on a panel that I have only ever done once. I have to correct a slide.
So if all the dead trees are like the Tree of Harmony, or is it like a bunch of ghosts just floating around? Like, I can't believe you guys did this to us.
Ooh.
Yes, pretend she's not making a correction on stream. It never happened. Totally never happened.
I 100% plan to do this correction.
Yes, that was a part of the plan the whole time. It was a plan, I guess.
So Dead Tree for me has been an experiment in discovering the perfect man. And for those that don't know, I'm gay. But hot damn if Nyota isn't the perfect frickin' man. Who is played by Skybolt, by the way.
You hear that, Skybolt?
I guess there's great expectations to go around then.
You know,
Yes,
I
the
didn't
shipping
write it.
begins.
I didn't write him that way. They actually have fights in the book. How is he the perfect man?
He's literally here. I wrote this.
Oh, she's getting her notes.
The perfect man, an ardent protector, loving father, and commando in chief. Basically, Nyota starts off as this like badass with this very monotone voice that you don't think too much of, and then he just continues to grow to be like when they have fights, they're not having fights because of his feelings or because of her feelings or any kind of like weird shit that comes between them, sort of like Blackjack and Glory, but they have fights because of the way that Nyota deals with everybody else. So they're rock solid together and they're constantly working to help each other improve. But Nyota is that guy that's constantly in the shadows. You always know he's there in a comforting way to protect you and to always be with you. And yeah, basically Nyota is the perfect zebra.
So I have to read this from Twitch chat. Moonhoof says that's a weird way to say quick stitch. And the immediate next post, hashtag quick stitch best space princess.
I am not.
Anybody else want to weigh in before we move to the next one?
The voice notes for the first chapters have been great because they all boil down to borderline hostile monotone, which is a great baseline to work on.
I also like the fact that in the bloopers for the first chapter, Skybolt said, "I'll just look up artwork of Nyota with safe search off," and I'm like, "No!"
That's a mistake.
As an experience.
I tried to do that and I got nothing.
That's because I have porn of Chifundo. I just haven't put it on Derpy Buru because I'm behind on putting stuff on Derpy Buru that is official artwork, much less the fan art I get sent.
Oh yeah, Chifundo is second in line as best zebra.
Okay, it is 8. Okay, we've got 30 minutes.
No, Sunrise is best zebra.
Okay.
I
Anyway,
mean, she's
so
at least
spoilers.
1/5 zebra now.
So this is currently 400,000 words and 49 released chapters. I'm almost at 500,000 words. It's the only one of the major 7 stories still being written. I'm not a moderator on the Fallout Equestria wiki. I got sent an email that says we're adding your story to the official major side stories and making it as close to canon as possible. And I went, "Excuse me, what?" And this was before I published it. As a favor to the person who helped make that possible, the 3rd book comes out at Everfree Northwest this year. As in, I'm going to stand up on stage with a physical copy of book 3 and be like, "Here's the first copy," and then pass it to the person it goes to, which is the person who's going to put that first copy into the charity auction. The whole reason why I wrote this, why I made this character and wrote this, was because I was pissed at Fallout 4. Moon running Fallout Equestria tabletop for us has been me telling him, "I'm pissed at Fallout 4, let's do this." And this book is the reason why I have a cease and desist letter to never contact Todd Howard ever again. I mailed a copy of the book to Todd Howard with a sticky note attached that said, "I wrote a better Fallout with ponies."
Ooh.
Oh.
First, I got a cease
we-
and desist letter on printing it, and then they got a rebuttal that says we've already been to court, you can't stop me. Then I got a cease and desist letter that says you're never allowed to talk to this person ever again. I'm like, I can live with that.
Can we just quote the Spiffing Brit here and say thank you, Todd Howard, for this absolutely magnificent game?
So, our next major side story. Murky number 7. Gut, punch, heart stab the story.
Huh.
Anybody else read Murky?
Ah. Yeah, that's about all I got.
That's all you got?
What do you want out of me?
Oh, so much.
Later.
So Murky number 7 is literally a story about being the bottom of the bottom and just getting kicked repeatedly. There's only one chapter in it where you don't want to cry for Murky, and the rest of it is just literally pulling on a bunch of sensitive issues and talking about the wasteland as it is. No punches pulled. This is the only Fallout Equestria story that is NC-17. The rest of them float between PG to PG-13. This is straight up, if you're not a legal voting age adult, get out. But it's none of it's done for shock value. All of it is done through carefully planned and carefully prepared, and literally makes you sit there and stare at it. And the exact quote at the bottom of the screen right now, "Dare to dream," is what you want to do when you look at Murky and go, yes, keep dreaming, keep going. Now, I said flirts with it. Project Horizons is like rated R, but it's not NC-17. At least in my eyes. Guys of Chaos, I screwed up and I don't remember how. Am I the only one that read this?
Probably.
Okay. So Guys of Chaos is about a raider who has amnesia and thinks they're a good person.
Whoops.
It is literally a story where you explore the idea of, are you to blame for things you can't remember doing? The author tried to write a sequel. I talked to them. They said they couldn't write it. They couldn't finish it, and then pointed it to me to a blog post where they had literally written like 4 chapters, and then went, no, can't do that. And then wrote, and like they showed me all of the chapters they'd written that they never published. There's like 5 different possibilities for a sequel that they just never did. But it also takes a character that in the video games you casually kill for XP, because if you've ever played a Fallout video game, you just shoot raiders in the head as XP bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those XP bubbles having a story. Also, yes, in the lower right corner here, this small little thing is in fact a miniaturized Philly ghoul. That's part of the story. That was the whole reason why I stuck with it, was because they introduced the pygmy. They literally introduced the mini the mini Philly ghoul, and I was like, I want to know what you are. Better Days. I am a Mandalorian. Oh crap, I have a heart. If you think The Mandalorian on Disney is new, no. This was written 7 years before that came out, and it's good. It's the least known of any of these stories. If any of you have read Better Days, I'm going to be shocked. There's nothing special about this pony. There's nothing special about this story. It is generic as generic can be, but it is executed precisely. It is executed succinctly. And that's why you want to read it, is not because it has anything unique or special or out there about it, or some new concept or some new exploration. It's just done with flawless execution. It's like if you've ever listened to Beethoven's Seventh Symphony or the 1812 Overture. If you listen to an orchestra do it, that's one thing. But if you listen to a master of an instrument do the entirety of the symphony or the overture on just the one instrument, it's an entirely different experience. And Better's Days is like a master writer sitting there and writing a story, and just there's nothing special about the story. It's just they're making sure that each and every part is executed without any problems. And this keeps going. And it keeps going. And it keeps going. Fallout is a game series that transcended 3 developers. It still remains popular. We're fascinated by the post-apocalypse to this day. Wasteland 3 comes out in like a couple months. And we're all looking forward to it because it's a Fallout-like experience. What's the release date for Wasteland 3? Let's see here. Wasteland 3 comes out 2 days after my birthday in May.
Well, know what I'm getting at.
And it's the closest thing to a classic Fallout experience we're ever going to get. Fallout cosplay is also really easy to do. And MLP cosplay is bright and colorful. If you take just a generic blue jumpsuit, put some yellow paint on it, and stick a piece of scrap metal on, you're in Fallout cosplay. Cool. Now, if you dye your hair to be a pony maid, you're in Fallout Equestria cosplay. That costs you all of $60. I looked it up. It is $58.30 to get those parts and materials and make that cosplay. That's it. And more importantly, we want to finish our stories and we want to share them with other people. Who all here has played Skyrim or a Fallout game?
Yeah.
How often do you sit down with your friends and compare your playthroughs?
Never.
I mean,
Never.
I've done that, but it usually just turns into a glitch swapping party.
You've never sat down, some of you have never sat down with your friends and just like talked about the game and compared your playthroughs?
Most of us haven't.
I have.
No, not really.
I've done it a
I
lot.
mean, we'll talk about the game in general, but not like comparing playthroughs like a leaderboard.
No, not like a leaderboard, but like Moon and I sat down and had a 6-hour argument about who was the best to rule New Vegas and Fallout New Vegas.
That's
Now,
a thing
see,
that you
that,
do, Fee.
That I can see.
We had a 6-hour argument about comparing our decisions and why we made those decisions.
Yeah, I also would like to point out that Looney had to go offline real quick, so I've taken over the stream. So if anybody needs to swap over, click on my name and go join the stream.
But yeah, so we have this need to finish our stories and then we want to share them. Most of us, anyway. Apparently not the rest of the voice actors here.
We're here to bring stories to life.
And this last point, publication is happening. Hasbro and Bethesda can't stop it. So I have here in my hand, actually. Switch the camera. This is what a copyright slip looks like after it's been through court from the U.S. Copyright Office. That's, focus camera, what it's for. I had to send this to Hasbro and Bethesda and wait for them to rebuttal it for 30 days. You can publish Fallout Equestria stuff and use this number right here, the copyright number, as proof that what you're doing is legal. We have parity protection for Fallout Equestria now, guys, and Hasbro and Bethesda can't do anything to stop us. They can get mad, but can't do anything.
And I don't know, like, I don't know if he's getting across just how big this is. If you've done any law research, you know that one of the main things United States law is built off of is precedence. This sets a precedence not just for fan fiction, but for so much. Like, wow.
For ponies everywhere.
Also, I just want to point out that you can thank the guys at Team 4-Star because I talked to their lawyer to help me figure out what we could do to make that possible. Let me tell you, that was not a fun conversation. But anyway, I've talked enough. I have all of these lovely voice actor people up here. Inky, who is the voice actor for Wandering Sunrise for the audiobook. Cinderscript, who is the director and voices a bunch of offshoot characters. I have Forest Rain, who is Chifundo. I have Chris, who is our lead narrator. I have Prince Dazzle, and I have Skybolt. And we have exactly 15 minutes for both Q&A and for them to talk about whatever they want. So I'm going to shut up. And I'm going to ask Invisibrony to change the room so everybody can talk.
Yeah. First off, I have swapped the stream over to the Twitch stream instead of the actual Discord stream. And second off, I will see if I can unshut everyone up.
But in the meantime, while we wait for him to make it where you guys can talk and post questions, if you guys want to pose them in the chat, that's perfectly fine. And also,
I think I can do it. It looks like
I just changed the settings, so you,
okay,
you should be able to. Yeah, sorry, Visibrony.
Yeah, I'm like, it looks like it's already set.
So if you can unmute your mic, then do that. If not, then you might have to leave the call and rejoin, and then you should be able to talk.
So Hetty just posted a question in the Twitch chat, which kind of corresponds to a question that I was thinking about asking other folks, which is, for each VA, what drew you to play your part? And to tack onto that from my side is, what struck you most about your character when you first discovered it?
Oh, I could answer that one. Well, I first started doing stuff with Pink Eyes, but I think what drew me to Quick Stitch was he's a bit on the manic depressive side, and I am that, so it's kind of fun to have a character that I can use my normal voice for that I also share a mindset with. So those two things really help me a lot, so it's really fun, I think.
Any other VAs?
Well, Dazzle, you seem both excited and depressed about that. How does that make you feel?
Both.
So, I mean, the reason that I wanted to play my character is because clearly I wanted to get shot in the head.
I mean, an honorable goal.
All right, well, I'm gonna... Go ahead.
Yeah, but to be honest, a slight variation on the question. The reason I actually accepted the offer from Fiaura and created Shotgun Angel Productions is actually as a follow-up to something that kind of fell apart. It was a failed attempt to do a audiobook, a similar style audio drama for Pink Eyes. That, due to issues with our cast and crew, kind of fell apart. But this time we're doing it right and we're doing it proud.
Yeah, I also would like to thank you for taking that over, as I was on a project similar to this and sadly was unable to continue it. So I'm very, very glad that something came out of that.
For me, I thought when Cinder first mentioned to me about the parts that were up for audition, I'd worked with her before on a fantastic episode of Confessions of Wasteland Pony, The Mercenary. And yeah, I had seen the Pink Eyes project going on too, but with this, there was like, it seemed like there was much more of a spark for this audio drama. Like you could hear it in her voice about like how great she wanted to make it. And after 3 chapters now almost come out, it's incredible what's all come together in just a few months. So I'm really excited, and I'm happy to be following Nyota along his path and see how everything unfolds.
I didn't know much about East Corp or or any of the places where a lot of the VAs came from for this project, but I did know Fee, and I think I heard through the grapevine that Fee was working on putting together an audiobook project. And so I sent her a direct message and I'm like, "Hey, I'm interested in your project, but I have no idea what it's all about." She's like, "Well, cool. How would you feel about playing a hermaphrodite Zoni shaman?" And I was like, "Well, you had me at hermaphrodite Zoni shaman, so yeah, of course."
I'm in.
I then proceeded to improvise her audition lines in rhyme.
Yeah, that was pretty fun too. But yeah, no, I really like the idea of such a unique character, and Chifundo is so humble and wonderful in his own quiet way, and he doesn't talk as like that much. But when he does, it always has a deeper meaning to it, and it's always in rhyme. So he's a fun character to do.
Looks at chapter 31 in fear. Inky.
So way back before I started the Traveling Pony Museum, I actually did some pony voice acting. I can't even remember what the projects were. I did Rarity and I did Twilight Sparkle and a singing voice for Twilight. And I never really pursued it very much at all. And the projects kind of fell apart and all that. And then I got busy, of course, and whatever. And in the last few years, I picked up voice acting again really strongly. And I've been working, as I mentioned before, on a variety of different projects, mostly IDW comic dubs and online comic fan dubs and stuff like that. And when Fiaura was talking about, I had seen also that she was talking about putting together an audio drama. I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun, because I would really like to do, you know, a pony project again, kind of reprise that. So I also sent a direct message to Fiaura, because I don't think that Fiaura knew that I was voice acting, because I don't really talk about it a lot. So I tried out for a bunch of stuff, and then I got Sunrise and was like, cool, I guess it's time to read this book and do a bunch of voice lines for a very neon green pony.
Is it cool if I ask a question?
Hold on, before you do, Chris has to answer, but Chris also has something she wants to tell everybody about her role. So, Chris.
Okay. You might also might wonder why me type of person would be a part of a Fallout story. And it's that I was helping Cinderscript with some very minor background ponies in her Puppy Smiles server, and Fiaura was asking people for help with a song, and I saw nobody had answered her for 3 days, if I remember correctly. So I said, like, hey, I can maybe try out. And after a long time of learning the song and actually sending in a demo, I, as far as I remember, got back, you have the voice I want for the narrator. Can you narrate?
You win.
And I was just like, what? Wasn't it a song?
So this is the part where I have to point a couple things out. One.
Yeah, sorry.
Chris is Norwegian. English is not her first language.
No.
And she has long times sitting around with Cinder's co-director Props, going over the lines to be able to narrate for us, and so we have a secondary narrator who's not here right now, Fauna Joy, who does narration, and we're trying to like keep them as even as possible to make sure we're not overworking one or the other, but both of them have a goal where their narration is supposed to sound like the older version of Sunrise.
So it's a Wonder Years project.
A little bit, yes. So when Chris sent in the demo, I went, that. I want that. And so all of Fauna's attempts to do the same type of voice acting try to use the same. She can't sound exactly like Chris, but she uses the same inflections and the same pronunciations as much as possible. I actually have a blooper of her sitting here going, and the cat did it again, and the cat, and then she starts sounding more and more like Chris every time she says, and the cat did it again, and has to restart her line. Bowser Ops would ask, I'm taking questions from the chat, I'm taking questions from Discord, I'm taking questions from comps, so we're going to take a question from Discord next, which is Bowser Ops wants to know, what advice would you give to someone that would like to write a story and create good character backstories but has trouble getting those ideas to paper? So, Forrest, you want to take this or you want me to do it?
You have way more experience doing this than I do, but I would say that I probably did it more recently, so I'll tag on to whatever you.
My method for creating characters is I don't create a character as a character first. I create the parents. I have character sheets for Sunrise's parents that are probably useless now because Moon redid them, but I have character sheets for Sunrise's parents. Because I needed to know who were the people who raised this child and who were the people who this child came from. And that's part of my character creation process for me, is I need to know, and then I create the character's I create all the environmental factors that are going to shape the character's life.
Yeah. Whose fault is it that who I am now?
I'll have to dig through my Google Sheets, Moon, but remind me before Wednesday, and I'll make sure I've dug through them and got them to you. But yes, I have character sheets for her parents.
Fiaura, is it cool if I ask the question in the voice chat?
Yes. Forrest, did you want to add anything onto creating characters?
Sure. Yeah, real quick, before we move into Ponyboy's question. For me, I found it was incredibly helpful to get a list of questions. So if you search out there 40 questions you should ask your characters, an article will pop up. And it has a whole bunch of questions that are super, super important to ask that will help you dig into their backstories. From my point of view, because I'm not working with any characters that already exist, like with Fee's thing, Fee has the ultimate challenge of taking characters that other people have created and then expanding on them and making them deeper for a story. From my perspective, I'm creating stuff from scratch. So for me, it's really important to explore my characters as deeply as I can beforehand with all those questions, and then find out, most importantly, what do they want, and no, really, what do they actually want? Because those two things are very different.
I actually have some input also.
Okay. Ponyboy, I'm gonna say thank you for your patience. We'll get to your question as soon as Inky throws her input.
No problem.
I also do writing. I don't write for the pony fandom at all, but in terms of stuff like creating good characters and good character backstory, like, yes, you know what Fiaura was saying and what Forrest was saying, but also just like write for yourself. Don't think about writing for other people. Don't try and please some sort of audience out there. You should be happy with what you're writing for yourself. You know, you want to create these characters, and maybe it doesn't happen right away. You know, sometimes a character will grow as you write them, and that's where, you know, editing comes in later. So just the best thing that you can do is start putting things on paper, because it's going to evolve from there as you write it. You know, do your preparations and all that, but just start writing. That's like the first step.
Yeah, I found if you write to please an audience, it also speeds up burnout. So there have been two decisions I made with Dead Tree on the original draft that were not very popular. And when I rewrote them, I basically didn't write a chapter for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I didn't even work on it for 2 or 3 weeks because I just didn't want to, because I felt disgusted that I had made a change because my audience had said they didn't like the decision. And I'm never doing that again. I'm never, like, if they don't like my decisions at this point, I'm just going to be like, look, I understand, but trust me, this goes somewhere. and I'm just gonna have to tell them to trust me, it goes somewhere from now on instead of changing anything I've written because they didn't like it. Ponyboy, you've been incredibly patient. What is your question?
Hello. I just wanted to ask, at the beginning of the panel, which I enjoyed and all, there was a bullet point stating that Fallout Equestria, that there's no place that's safe, and I just thought that that's not. I thought it's not correct, because there's a few places like Spike's Cave or Tenpony Tower or the Single Pegasus Project that are places where the characters are usually safe in.
Okay,
And
I actually have an answer to this. Every single one of those places you just named has come under siege.
And
every single one has been threatened.
And every single one has had someone die in them during the story. Example, Spike's Cave, there's an Enclave soldier who literally gets burned alive inside her own suit.
That's also where Strawberry Lemonade died. Off screen. Thanks, K-Cat!
Or Tenpony Tower. God's son dies at Tenpony Tower. Tenpony Tower.
While I agree with the sentiment that no place is safe, quote unquote, I think one of the things that is incredibly important to the characters when it happens is relishing those moments when they are, quote unquote, safe. And those moments where they can leave the wasteland outside the doors.
Okay.
And let's be fair that Strawberry Lemonade definitely had to take a stand.
Okay, I think we answered your question inadvertently, Maxwell, about how people liked the project so far.
Can I ask a question?
Let me get a question from Twitch chat, and you'll be the next question. We do have 15 minutes until I need to start the premiere.
All right.
So the next question I have here is the absolute noob question. How do you get into voice acting?
Get a microphone.
I can say how I got into it. I was just
Hi, talk to me. Hi, talk to me. No, seriously.
Yes,
the way you do it is
talk to people.
Talk to people.
The pragmatic answer is you look for groups looking for people. You look for stories that don't have a lot of readings of them, or even if they do and you'd just be interested in it, just record something.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
There are a lot of
Sorry.
There are a lot of places that you'll be able to find open auditions. And really the number one step is going to be having at least a semi-decent mic. It doesn't have to be the best mic on the market, but it shouldn't be like your headset mic. You know, and being able to utilize a recording software, which isn't too hard to learn. But I mean, even on like social media, on Twitter, there are hashtags for voiceover and voice acting. They post open projects that anybody can apply for. You know, you don't have to be a pro. Some of them do require having like a professional demo reel. So when you're starting out, you want to just avoid those because you can't do them yet. But essentially just start some small projects, build up, talk to people, network with other people who might be in projects, who might need other roles and background roles. Yeah.
And one thing to also definitely look into is get something like Audacity, and when you do record your voice, look into the noise reduction option to take out your background noise if you're not in a professional studio.
Also, when we're talking about background noise, we're talking about crazy stuff like your computer fans. Even if you physically can't hear them, the mic will pick them up. It's one of the reasons why I moved to the Yeti, because the AT2020, as suggested by Forrest Rain, is excellent if you have soundproofing equipment. If you don't have soundproofing equipment, you need a Yeti, because the Yeti has directional... the Yeti and Snowball mics have directional settings, so the mic will only record stuff coming from a certain direction.
How much are they, though?
I need to do a quick interjection here. Just from an audio editor's perspective, I absolutely hate when people do their own noise correction on takes. So if you are sending it to somebody who's doing an edit that, you know, is trained as an audio editor, please don't do any noise correction on it. It drives me up the
unless you're really good at it.
No, period.
Yeah, period. You want... Okay, this
uncompressed
is as a
wave,
director.
raw.
Yeah, this is as a director-producer thing. Your audio engineer should do everything related to the engineering. That's how you get consistency. That's how you get it so that everyone sounds like they're in the same room, even if they're all over the world.
So next question. We're gonna get to I Am Dumb's verbal question in a moment. Fraser asks from Discord, how did you get the idea of an audiobook since the book was released? My answer is I kept getting asked about it at conventions until it get driven into my head, and I said, fine, I'll do it, but you guys are paying for it. And they started putting money on Patreon, and I'm like, okay, we're doing this.
That's how Dead Tree was made.
I Am Dumb, you had a question.
Yeah, do you consider Project Horizons to be canon?
It is. So there's this category on the Fallout Equestria wiki called Major Side Stories. It is described as the closest thing to canon because KCAT has refused, and this is the beauty of KCAT's work. She took her hands off. She said, "Here's the world. I did all this stuff. Go do what you want."
Yeah.
So
make it work.
So because she refuses to declare anything canon, everything is basically not canon. And then there's this really weird middle ground for these 7 stories that the wiki has made as these are the 7 stories we consider the closest thing to having actually happened in KCAT's universe.
Yeah, I think of it like a sandbox. Like everyone is kind of in their own little corners and they can build up however they want, off of the foundation that is the original story. And yeah, a lot of them obviously are bigger and better than others, but it's great because everyone has that same baseline that they can play.
That's an incredibly freeing thing as somebody who recently ventured into being an FOE author. Is there's so much out there and it's incredibly intimidating. But the sheer knowledge of just knowing that everything is non-canon and you can pretty much do what you want and you're okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much like you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
That's
and you will get those people. You will get those people who say like, "Oh, well, this contradicts Project Horizons chapter whatever," and you just got to look at them and go, "Okay, that's nice. Project Horizons breaks most of KCAT's canon. Your point?"
That said, Fee, is there any fix that you took as canon when you set out to create Dead Tree?
I took Murky as close. Murky is my inspiration for making a gritty wasteland. So like Moon is a wonderful GM and does wonderful things on live stream. But when you're live streaming something, you have limitations. We have a joke called the box of family friendliness that just appears on stream. So what has to happen with box of family friendliness means that I can't show whatever's behind that box, whether it be gratuitous gore or sex or whatever. So what I have to do is go in private and RP out with text stuff back and forth with the characters to figure out exactly what happens in the box of family friendliness. Then not necessarily the sex scene itself, but just like any conversation or dialogue that occurs.
Yeah, and goodness help you if you get it roll a 1.
And then I have to take what's happened in that, rewrite it with extreme artistic liberty. There is, and I'm going to say it's extreme artistic liberty. Reading the story, reading the book, and watching the live streams of the tabletop game, you're going to get 2 similar stories, but you're going to get entirely different experiences from the same story. Because, like, for instance, chapter 31 and chapter 44 of the book don't exist on the stream at all. There's not a single part of those 2 chapters that exist on the stream. And and another thing is like chapter 20, the end of the first book, over half of it doesn't exist on the live stream.
I can tell.
And for good reason.
So none of it's sexual or porn related, but it's just stuff that I can't show on stream because Twitch has limitations for what Twitch is willing to put up with. Even if you're just doing a verbal roleplay back and forth, Twitch has a limit for what you're allowed to do, and basically the limit is if it happened, if it would cause you to have an R-rated, Marvel movie and it would cause you to be in the same category as Deadpool, you've gone past the limit. Tone it back. That's Twitch's limit. YouTube's limit's even more restricted than that. YouTube's limit is basically, are you X-Men? No, using Marvel comic movies as a reference, it's like, are you the X-Men movies? No, then you're too violent or you're too sexy. Tone it down.
Yeah, they can't make money off that.
So, that's just an example there. Does anyone else have a verbal question here before I go back to the chat? Yes, PX.
About your copyright strike, the thing from the law you showed earlier, the paper. Why did you get something like this? I mean, there are a lot of other Fallout Equestria stories already out there.
Because I wanted to publish it legally and be able to say, you can't tell me no if I want to put this in a bookstore. So I went to court. I spent several $1,000s and over 3.5 months in the state of Virginia in Richmond's federal district court with a judge and 4 copyright attorneys and my own attorney.
So it was started from you.
I initiated it because I wanted to file the copyright, put it in the book, and maybe one day when I'm like old and gray, take this, have like a publisher take this and go, we're publishing this. And Bethesda and Hasbro could not say a word. That's what I wanted.
To clarify, it is a copyright declaration, not a copyright strike that Fiaura got.
Yeah, wrong word for myself.
I have a question.
Sure.
Questions. My question is, do you work with the company who create the My Little Pony series?
No. No, I do not. The artwork I have from numerous artists. They are all a part of my staff. They all get credit in the book and on FimFiction. Whenever I post a piece of artwork, I usually try to make sure I include in the author's notes the artist who made the artwork for the chapter, so everybody knows who they are and who made the artwork. But I do not work with the creators of the show whatsoever. Actually, when until season 9 was finished and coming out, several of the show personnel were told when they went to conventions they could not talk to me. Jim Miller and I at HarmonyCon this year sat down and had a talk because he came over to my table and says, I can finally talk to you. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, the show's done. All the episodes are out, and now Hasbro can't hold me hostage anymore. I wanted to talk to you for a year. And I'm like, okay. That's the thing. And if you've ever talked to Jim, or been around Jim, you know he's a kind of a laid-back guy who doesn't have that kind of intensity. So seeing big Jim Miller, who's like twice my size, coming up to me with that kind of intensity is kind of like Moon grabbing me by the collar and going, "You can't do that, Fee," and just blaring spit into my face.
So my next question is, do you think I get copyright if I make my fan-made movie or something?
I don't know. I used U.S. parody law, and which is kind of a thing where you have to be doing something for the purposes of parody to point out the faults in the logic of a particular piece of work. In this case, it's a combination of, this is what happens if we take your lessons of friendship Hasbro to an extreme, and this is how you fix Fallout 4. So that was what we used in court to demonstrate.
Yeah.
Ava?
Yeah?
You're not going to find that answer in this group. You would want to talk to a local attorney that actually knows your laws.
Yeah, you're gonna have to talk to a like attorney to actually teach you that. Okay.
I see.
All right. Anyone else have a question? I'm looking through Twitch chat. I think we've got everybody in Twitch chat. Going once.
Then I have another one. You said there are a few questions for to be considered as a major story, but on the wiki itself, it only said that it has needs an own entry in Equestria Daily, and it needs to be completed or actively updated. So where are the other requirements from?
The other requirements were actually a part of the messaging back and forth, because I asked them, so what is the, like, I had a conversation with the person from the wiki. I think it's Red Man in this case, and then later a question with Shining Heart, or a conversation where they were discussing the decision to update it on the wiki as that, and I said, okay, well, what all is like just the 2 requirements you have listed here it? And they, yes, Irvana, I ate just before we started this. And so they gave me the other requirements they generally look at before they consider moving a story from just a side story to an actual major side story, which is something like that's why Starlight and Detrot, despite having a printed version, isn't considered a major side story. It doesn't have an EQD update, so they don't bother with it. In the meantime, we have time for one more question.
I do have a question regarding about the microphone, the Yeti microphone.
Bubblebeam also have a question. Write it in the chat a few minutes ago, just so you know.
Okay, what did Bumblebee write in the chat? My FA stories, it's a long time after. I don't see.
Also, Derpy Gamer, I posted one of my playlists from my YouTube where there's a lot of tips and advice on both mics and how to do voice acting. Like, there are many different ones, so you can check that out.
I mean, like, I was just about to ask about like what Yeti microphone would you recommend to buy?
So I bought Chris this one too. I think it's just like it's not any of the really high end ones. It's it's just the standard Yeti X, which is $170.
Can't afford that.
Or the standard Yeti, which is $130, or even the Yeti, or the Snowballs. The Snowballs, if you want to go cheap and want a good microphone, the Snowballs are $50 and $70 respectively, and they're damn good for what they are.
The Yeti Auto is a nano version.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your question, Bumblebee?
Okay, so my question is, when writing a story, I, for instance, know where I want this story to go, and I know how I wanted to start it. But how do you figure out what you do in between? Like, the stuff you fill it up with to make it a good story?
I'd say that all that in-between stuff is, like, there's an awesome quote from Stephen King, say what you will about him, but he said, I don't remember it exactly, but it was something to the effect of, I would never ruin a good story by trying to inject plot into it. So basically what it means is, yes, you're going to plan out where your story's going and all that kind of stuff, but that in-between stuff, that's the meat of where your characters are actually growing and developing and changing, and all the things that actually come into play that cause that change within them.
So the last question we're going to take here is from the Moon himself, and I'm going to address it to everyone. Would you do it again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do what exactly?
What is it?
Would you choose to work on a Fallout project, on a Fallout Equestria project again if you went back to before you ever worked on one?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
I started my career. I would.
So
yeah, being able to do voice acting and then also do like artwork in a published book, like that's really cool. Like, yeah, of course.
So story time. Bob can attest to this, and Adagio can attest to this because they were both at the respective event when this happened. I got the book home, and I didn't the first time. I didn't even open the boxes. I looked at the boxes for like a day. Then I went downstairs. I opened a box, and I took out a Sharpie and I wrote in it. I signed my name in it, and I wrote author copy. I said it, Then I just collapsed on the floor right in front of Bob and started crying. Because it was real. And then when I went to Ciderfest last year and the second book had just been printed, God, those second book copies have so many errors in them, and the new version has has something like 600 things corrected in it, and I am so embarrassed to say that out loud, but I would not trade that second book for my own kidney. I got that second book at Adagio's house. I walked upstairs. He said, "Your copy's on my bed," and I walked upstairs. I picked it up, and he found me upstairs just crying. He actually put the book in front of a space heater for the night because I'd cried onto some of the pages because I was physically holding it, and I kept saying, and I looked at him, and my exact words were, "It's not a fluke. I did it twice."
Hey, lucky you got that. I don't have any of the books yet.
So, well, no, I wrote them, Rony mate. I wrote these books. They're printed now.
That's pretty cool. I wish I could get one.
You can actually. I do have them for sale on my website, and once I have the time to sit down and finish navigating Amazon's bureaucracy, I'll have them on Amazon. But in the meantime, we are going to switch over to a live premiere on YouTube, Chapter 3 of the audiobook, and I'm just going to let this play. I'm going to link this in Twitch chat so you can flip over to the audiobook and talk directly to them. And at the end of this, I'm not going to make the voice actors stay around for like the full hour and something this is, but if they want to, I will be back at the end of this to take any more questions you guys have, and then we'll close out the panel.
I wanted to join in on this because I'm a big fan of Fallout Equestria.
Alright, I'm in.
And now we wait.
And what are we waiting on?
Stuff need to start.
Okay. I'm going to do a quick Discord reset since I'm streaming and had a couple of issues, and it might be the
As fires burn out from yesterday, a wandering mare's found a better way. For just as night seems most dark sunrise comes to warm our hearts.
From the ashes of war, through the blood and the gore, a man once born in this world that is torn. A group that cannot just be stopped or forgot will rise and overcome all odds. And with every new day, through the parts that we play, as we push fear away and remember the ways of a man who was kind and whose words we remind.
Chapter 3 Breaking Many Cherries. If you ever find yourself in over your head, just remember, one task at a time and you can get through it. John Steel Drivin Henry. I wasn't the only one struggling to move hoof over hoof up the dirt-covered concrete stairs. Our party was hastily bandaging tender wounds, or, in my case, tiny, less than fully developed muscles struggling to haul myself, my pack, and my weapons up the climb.
Why did the equipment that had my name on them have to be so darn heavy? Are my muscles atrophied in stasis?
By the time I managed to finally pull myself over the top, my hooves ached with the bite of the stairs that were crudely improvised and far too steep for comfort. Flopping down to take a long, hard nap was such a tempting idea. The best one I've had since my invention of the deep-fried sweet onion rings and roasted potato tackle. Sadly, my newfound friends didn't seem willing to indulge in my brilliant nap idea.
Well, when you can't beat them or convince them, you just have to join them, right?
We trotted beyond the entrance out into the slate quarry. I wasn't sure if what was behind us was a cave or a bunker, judging from the construction equipment around us.
Really? Could they have at least swept up their front porch and made it look a bit nicer than just a hole in the ground? While they're at it, they should have set out tea and scones for us too.
Despite the day being extremely cloudy, I couldn't help but feel my spirit lift as Celeste's blessing washed over me. It had been a long time since I'd been outside again. Even if I could barely feel the sunlight on us, it was welcome to have sky over our heads.
If these creatures and my pitbuck are to be believed, it's been 182 years since the last time I felt Celestia's warmth. Just how much time have I been kept occupied inside the Stable 43's stasis pod? Was it even possible for some pony to stay that long in a stasis tank? Perhaps even centuries? The stable tech personnel were also using them while they slept. This is life now.
I couldn't linger on my thoughts any longer, as I was snapped back to reality by Alguacil's voice.
It seems clear up here. Nothing but rusted out machines, a few trailers, and rocks. We're in some pit mine.
I ignored Alguacil for a moment, and instead looked around. I took a seat to let my muscles rest for a moment and rubbed my pitbug leg to stop a building cramp. Anything was better than worrying about how much time had passed, or marching out to go look for another fight with these creatures I wanted to call friends. I needed to get my mind off the date on my pitbox somehow. Everywhere I looked stood plain, uninspiring hills of slate and grey stone. It was like staring at a blank piece of paper, while a nightmare's shadow loomed behind you. The hard rock face behind us held the cave we came out of. Eventually I turned around to look at the hole we emerged from and realized the exit doors were improvised steel from the machinery in the quarry. The doors looked like the two of them had been taken from a passenger carriage spellmatrix hood. That, or a piece of construction equipment salvage. I only managed to recognize them because, well, I'd seen them before. It gave me pause as I cocked my head to the side.
Why would some Honi use carriage parts for a door? There were far better uses for the spell matrix hood than that. Great. Dad is rubbing off on me harder than I thought.
I slowly looked away from the cave and spotted a makeshift guard tower right next to us. Beyond that was a row of intact trailers with StableTech decals on them. All of them colored in that obnoxious blue and yellow StableTech loved so much. All of that, however, paled in comparison when I spotted two massive mechanical earth movers. One was a massive bucket crane, and the other was an even larger lift crane with a heavy stable door attached to its platform.
This is an incomplete stable. No wonder I recognized the interior. We must have woken up in what was either going to be the water filtration room or the chamber for rain collection.
The two construction pieces had obviously been left exposed to the elements for ages, as they were both covered in brown and black rust. Their Caterpillar road wheels were mostly there, but turned from shining chrome to dull, unsightly rust. From this distance, I could see one of the wires holding the stable door looked frayed. Despite all that, they were in good shape beneath all the layers of rust and neglect. The hole behind us was meant to be reinforced and made into something to withstand megaspells. Now, it was just a set of rusty metal doors improvised from scraps. There was a guard tower built from scrap metal, a ladder torn off of the machinery, and a craned bucket at the top for someone to stand watching. Cascades of rock and slates dotted the immediate area, along with what looked like a well-worn path made from hoof tracks. I let out an eep of surprise, jumping forward when I felt a cardboard edge bunt against my rear.
Guys on stream,
I spun around, ready to
Twitch,
shout
we
and
are gonna
scream
switch
in
over to
painful
just
anger
YouTube.
as I could feel the
please do
throbbing,
follow the
sharp
link in the
pain
chat.
of a
I
shallow
will be
cardboard
in
cut
Discord
along my
here with
flank
Looney's
below my
Discord
cutie mark.
still, though.
When and how did I get that cutie mark again?
Corners was sitting there, two sheepish eyes gazing at me from the slit of her box.
When and how did I
Don't
get that
knock
cutie
on
mark
doors. You're gonna get us
Corners
all
was-
killed.
She snarled out from her box. I looked at the filly, very surprised and hurt.
Just for that, I'm knocking on every door